was just thinking that it might be nice to deliver Mr. Rector's first, that is all.
One thing about the Despicable Me movies is that they are filled with interesting and hilarious plot twists, which kind of hides the fact that there are so many mistakes and plot holes in them. Yes, you'd actually be surprised to see them. Obviously, you aren't going to take our word for it, so we put together a fun little expose on all the secrets you missed in the Despicable Me movie. We hope you're ready because we are jumping right into it. GRU'S hidden superpower. At the very beginning of the movie, we see that GRU clearly loves being a criminal, from stealing coffee and pastries to making plans to steal the moon. Anyways, in all of this, you can clearly see that he makes use of specialized gadgets for all of his heists. So where did the sudden teleportation powers come from? Somewhere in the introductory scene, he gets out of his car to talk to his neighbor. As you can see, he doesn't have anything in his hands, and after the interaction with his neighbor, he walks directly to his house. We also don't see him going back to the car, but when we finally see him inside, you can see the pastry bag right there in his hands. Teleportation or a mistake by the filmmakers? You tell us.
Curses! Foiled again! These guys captured me!
The disappearing tourists. Also at the beginning of the movie, there is a scene where the Egyptian pyramid is falling down. In this scene, we can see how the animators make this glorious structure fall like it was just a massive inflatable sheet. Well, to be fair, that is exactly what it was because the original structure had already been stolen. Let's just pretend that this was the easiest way the animators could go with it, but that's not the only mistake in the scene. You see, when we first saw the pyramid, it was obvious that a few tourists were standing right in front of it. But when it began to fall, the tourists were all gone, almost as if they were never there to begin with. Did the animators simply forget to keep them for the next scene, where they should be running away for their lives, or did they just manage to disappear into thin air?
Of course. I have pins and needles that I'm sitting on.
Pinky promise.
The missing safety bar. One of our favorite parts of this movie was watching GRU transform from a wannabe evil genius into a kind-hearted father of three. But there was one moment that got us wondering if GRU should be a dad at all. At some point in the movie, he takes the girls on a roller coaster. Yes, he was caring enough to go on the ride with them against his will, but shouldn't Parent 101 be about safety first? GRU clearly didn't get that memo, as he went on the ride without safety bars to protect himself. In this scene, you can see that when he gets off the ride, there wasn't any safety bar to protect him.
Wait!
What?
What about goodnight kisses?
The left-handed instrument. You don't have to be super attentive to notice that Balthazar Brat is right-handed, which makes his guitar-like instrument called the keytar also right-handed. That is all good, but eventually it became a problem which the animators forgot about or decided to ignore. You see, GRU is left-handed, so when he steals it from Brat at the end of the film, it suddenly becomes a left-handed instrument, therefore allowing GRU to play it. Mistakes like this were actually made all through the other Despicable Me movies.
He's getting in the way!
That's what he thinks! The gravity of the moon. All through the movie, it is very evident that GRU's biggest wish was to steal the moon, and when he finally manages to do so, something very unlikely happens. You see, when GRU arrives there, he stops near it and then exits his spacecraft. If you know a thing or two about space, then you know that this is an impossible thing, because in reality, he would have to enter the orbit around the moon first, then allow the gravity of the moon to accelerate him towards it. This animators must not have done their homework.
Next time I see Brad, I will moonwalk all over his stupid face!
In space without a pressure suit. Again, if you know how things work in space, then you know that Vector should not have survived that trip to space. In this scene, you can clearly see that he is wearing only a helmet to have some oxygen. While he definitely does not need this helmet, the filmmakers may have forgotten that he also needed a pressure suit. Without a pressure suit, his blood would have already started boiling, and his lungs would also explode because of the vacuum of space.
Not Victor anymore. Victor was my nerd name. Now I am Vector.
Kung Fu experts. We don't know if the filmmakers didn't know this or if they just didn't care, but the fact that the minions were able to learn Kung Fu so quickly makes no sense at all. You can agree that this scene where the minions learn Kung Fu is one of the most hilarious moments of the Minions movie, but it is not possible that these three minions became Kung Fu experts out of nowhere. The crazy flight. The scene where the minions take over the flight to San Francisco is one of the most hilarious moments in the Minions movie. You can see them making wild attempts to steer the plane while calming down the other anxious passengers. However, this scene is still very impractical. Come on, a plane dramatically flying around in the air before landing? You don't even need to know much about handling a plane to see that there was no way that plane didn't crash for real.
You know what, Clive? Playing a villain on TV was fun, but being one in real life is even better!
The disappearing tights. Somewhere at the end of the movie, GRU attends the girls' dance recital, but we couldn't help but notice the case of the disappearing tights. Before GRU joins Agnes, Edith, and Margot on stage, you can clearly see that all three of them are wearing tights. Not for long though, because by the time GRU lifted her up onto his shoulders on the raised platform, she wasn't wearing them anymore. That has got to be the quickest wardrobe change ever, or the filmmakers made yet another mistake.
Girls, don't worry, I'm here! Are you okay?
Yeah, we're fine.
The bedtime storybook. Another mistake that didn't get past our eagle eyes was the pages of the bedtime storybook. In this scene, Gru is reading the story of the 3 little kitties to the girls. If you look closely, you'd see that there is a way he turns the pages of the book. He's basically keeping his fingers inside the puppet, which is impossible. If you consider how the holes appear on the other pages, you see it, right? Turning the pages of that book as easily as Gru is making it out to be is actually impossible.
This is gonna be the best book ever.
Not to pat myself on the back.
The freeze ray. At this point, we realize that it might be almost impossible to create the perfect animated movie without any mistakes. But right now, we're just having the best time picking at them, so we are going to keep at it. Anyways, would you agree with us that one of Gru's favorite things in the world just might be his freeze ray? Throughout the Despicable Me movies, you can see him using pull-out weapons. He never misses an opportunity to freeze anything and everyone. However, at the beginning of the second Despicable Me movie, he has an encounter with Lucy Wilde, and he drops his freeze ray. We couldn't help but notice that it had just disappeared from where it fell.
Sorry to bother you, Mr. Perkins, but I figured that you would want to see this!
Extra clean. There's a bit of a strange moment in the second Despicable Me movie when Lucy starts smashing the purple cupcakes. To begin with, this is a very weird thing to do, but what makes it even weirder is her total repellence of the cake residue. After all that smashing, her hands literally stay clean. Even after she smeared the cake all over Gru's face, her hands aren't just clean, they're actually bone dry. This is just lazy work on the part of the animators if you ask us.
We have located the shrink ray.
The broken door. This moment in Despicable Me 2 can be caught when one of the minions opens Gru's house door inwards, but later on when Agnes enters the house to put an umbrella over Gru's head, the door swings outwards. It's a really tiny detail, but it's still going to make our list because either the door is broken or the filmmakers forgot which way the door was meant to swing. So yeah, it's a mistake.
Did it for your own good. Come on, let's go get that moon.
The one-eyed bartender. Remember the weird one-eyed bartender in Despicable Me 3? Yeah, he was definitely the kind of creepy that you wouldn't easily forget. But there's also a mistake by the filmmakers which only made him look more creepy. You see, just looking at him, you can tell that he has only one eye. But when he turns to the left, you would see that, for some reason, this missing eye mysteriously appears when he faces the other direction, only to disappear again as soon as he faces forward.
So, as far as getting money for the rocket?
Get the shrink ray. Then we'll talk.
Is there any mistake you caught that should have made it to our list? Share it with us in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos like this one.
Gru's not here.
Are you sure?
Yes, he just told me.
Hey!